My biological mother thought my 6-year-old self was a drag on her chances of marrying into a wealthy estate. So, she dumped me under a highway overpass. To get a bite of food, I grabbed the leg of a passing street punk and wouldn't let go. "Hey, big brother, your boots are dirty. Let me wipe them for you." "Hey, big brother, are you thirsty? I can go steal some water for you." A bunch of street punks looked down at me. Damn, this kid knows how to hustle. Fine, let's keep her. She's our little sister now. From that day on, I had 12 gangster brothers. They never taught me any grand life philosophies. They only taught me one thing: if someone bullies you, beat them to a pulp. Because of this, in 12 years, my 12 brothers had never actually been in the same room together. Either one was doing time for breaking someone's leg, or another was locked up for cracking someone's ribs. But against all odds, I studied hard, got into college, and became the only university student from our rundown neighborhood. Yet, on the very first day of classes, my roommate lost her luxury necklace and pointed the finger straight at me. Our academic advisor, the dorm supervisor, and the roommate's rich parents marched right to my place, demanding to search it. I blocked the doorway. "Can we please just resolve this at the school office?" The roommate's mother shoved me aside. "Guilty conscience, huh? I want to see exactly what kind of trashy home breeds a thief." I stood at the door of my off-campus place, looking at Mrs. Miller, our academic advisor, who had her usual, just following protocol, face. Behind her stood a middle-aged couple practically dripping in designer labels, and Chloe, my roommate, leaning against the hallway wall with a smug smirk. "May," Mrs. Miller said, adjusting her glasses. "If you really have nothing to hide, you should let us and Chloe's parents take a look inside. It's the best way to clear your name." Chloe's mother sneered at me, scanning me from head to toe before her eyes settled on my faded, worn-out canvas sneakers. She let out a loud, dramatic sigh. Chloe stepped forward, lowering her voice, but making sure everyone in the hallway could hear. "May, you could barely afford the tuition deposit, right? I heard you're only here on financial aid. With your background, who else would steal my $4,000 Tiffany necklace? Who's going to believe you?" I ignored her and looked straight at Mrs. Miller. "Mrs. Miller, can we please just handle this through the campus board? Why are you so scared?" Chloe's father took a step forward. He had a massive gold pinky ring and pointed his finger right in my face. "My daughter's necklace is the latest Tiffany collection. $4,000. If it wasn't you, then who? We are searching your place today. I want to see what kind of trashy family raises a thief." Chloe laughed out loud beside him. I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. "Fine," I said. "Let's go." As we walked out of the campus gates, Chloe kept pace right next to me, her high heels clicking loudly on the pavement. "May, do you even know who bought me that necklace?" "My boyfriend. The one who drives the Mercedes," she said, tossing her hair. "Honestly, you're not ugly. Why do you do stuff like this? Why not just find a guy to take care of you? What's the point of finishing college if you're just going to be broke forever?" I stopped and turned to look at her. "Was that Mercedes rented or borrowed?" I asked flatly. "Because last week, I saw him riding a rental scooter outside the gate." Chloe's face went rigid. Her mother overheard and immediately rushed over. "How dare you speak to my daughter like that? Chloe's boyfriend is in business. What does a charity case student like you know about anything?" I didn't reply. I just kept walking. But my mind drifted back to my 12 brothers. When I was 6, my birth mother, Eleanor, abandoned me under a highway overpass because I was getting in the way of her marrying a rich guy. She left me with $20 and never looked back. I huddled under that overpass for 2 days, dizzy with hunger. Then, I saw a crew of guys walking down the alley. The leader had bleached blonde hair, a cigarette dangling from his lips, and walked like he owned the streets. I was tiny, but I had survival instincts. I rushed out and wrapped my arms around his leg. "Hey, big brother, your boots are dirty. Let me wipe them for you. Hey, big brother, are you thirsty? I can go steal some water for you." The crew looked down at me. "Kid's got game," the blonde guy said, spitting out his cigarette. "Fine, we're keeping her. She's our little sister now." From that day on, I had 12 brothers. The oldest was Jax, the blonde leader. The second was Leo, the big guy with a scar across his face. The third was Blade, skinny as a rail. The fourth was Hammer, the one with fists like iron. All the way down to the 12th, whom we called Gizmo. He picked the name himself, saying a weird street name keeps you safe. They never taught me morals. They only taught me one rule. Asterisk: if anyone messes with you, let your fists do the talking. Asterisk. So, for 12 years, the 12 of them were never all together. Someone was always in county jail for breaking a collarbone or cracking a rib. But they loved me fiercely. When I was a kid, we were dirt poor. We lived in a rundown trailer park that leaked rain in the summer and let in freezing wind in the winter. But my plate always had the best cuts of meat, scooped out of my brother's own bowls. When I was 7, a boy at school cut a chunk of my hair off and mocked me for having no parents. I didn't cry. I didn't say a word when I got home. But Jack somehow found out. The next day, that boy showed up to school with a completely shaved head, crying his eyes out all day. When the teacher asked who did it, the boy just whimpered that someone had pinned him down in the bathroom with a razor. When I asked Jax about it, he was eating instant ramen and didn't even look up. What? I was at the internet cafe all night. Don't look at me. But I saw the electric clippers tucked in his back pocket. When I was 8, a local creep tried to touch my face in the alley. Again, I said nothing. But the next day, that creep was kneeling in front of our porch, his face swollen like a balloon, begging for my forgiveness. Blade was leaning against the wall, smoking. He smiled when he saw me. Hey, sis. This guy wanted to apologize, so we helped him find his manners. Later, I found out Blade had taken on that creep and 4 of his friends by himself. Blade spent 2 weeks in the hospital, but when he came home, he brought me a cheap hair clip. Got it from a street vendor for $2. Don't hate it, he grunted. I still have that clip. May. Why are you walking so fast? Guilty conscience? Chloe's voice snapped me back to reality. She jogged up to match my pace, a smug smile plastered on her face. Are you scared of us seeing how you live? I heard the area you live in is basically a slum. Are you renting some sketchy room? Or do you live with your weird relatives? I ignored her. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out and saw a text from Gizmo, my youngest brother. Asterisk, hey sis, how was orientation? Get your butt home quick, the guys put together a huge surprise for you. Asterisk. A surprise. My palms started sweating. I knew exactly what their surprises looked like. The day I finished my high school exams, they said they had a surprise. I ran home excited, only to find a guy kneeling on our living room floor. It was a bully from the high school next door who used to corner me for lunch money. My brothers had handled him before, but that day, he was black and blue, sobbing. I'm sorry. I'll never do it again. Please tell your brothers to let me go. Jax was sitting on a lawn chair, eating watermelon. He tossed the rind aside when he saw me. Sis, this guy wanted to apologize face to face. We just facilitated. You satisfied? If not, I can make him kneel a bit longer. What was I supposed to say? So, seeing the word surprise now made my heart race. Chloe leaned over to peep at my screen before I could lock it. Ooh, who's texting you? She sneered. Some street trash boyfriend? Figures. With your background, you'd only attract lowlifes. I shoved the phone into my pocket and remained silent. She leaned in closer, whispering, but loud enough for Mrs. Miller and her parents to hear. May, are you embarrassed of your home? Don't worry, being poor isn't a crime. She tossed her hair. But stealing is. That necklace is $4 grand. You can't even pay your tuition, how are you going to pay me back? If you hand it over now, we can settle this privately. Otherwise, once we search your place and find it, I'm calling the cops. I stopped walking. I didn't take it. Chloe rolled her eyes. Sure, you didn't. Let's see what you say when we find it. Her mother caught up and grabbed my arm tightly. Why are you stopping? Trying to run? I'm not running, I said, trying to pull away. Not running? Her mother gripped harder, her sharp acrylic nails digging painfully into my skin. You look like you're about to bolt. We should hold her down, otherwise, she'll run for sure. Chloe chimed in immediately, yes. Hold her. Mrs. Miller turned around, frowning, but she didn't stop them. Chloe's father walked over. Mrs. Miller, I agree. If she runs, who pays for the $4,000 necklace? We need to secure her. Mrs. Miller hesitated, then nodded. May, just cooperate for now. It's for everyone's peace of mind. Chloe's mother pulled a nylon strap from her designer bag, trying to bind my wrists. I violently yanked my arm back. Back off. Chloe's mother gasped. Chloe froze. Mrs. Miller's frown deepened. May. Show some respect to your elders. I said, back off. I glared at them. I didn't steal anything. You have no right to bind me. Chloe's father lunged forward to grab me. I dodged. Chloe sneered, May, you want to fight? I can get you arrested for assault. Go ahead, I spat, staring her down. Her father lunged again. I raised my hand to block and somehow, my fist connected squarely with his jaw. Honestly, I don't even know how I threw that punch. Maybe it was the muscle memory from the self-defense moves my brothers drilled into me, or maybe I was just pushed to my limit. Chloe's father groaned, stumbling back against the brick wall. You struck my husband. Chloe's mother shrieked, throwing herself at me and grabbing my hair. Chloe joined in, clawing at me. Mrs. Miller was shouting, stop it. Stop it, from the sidelines, but no one listened. I was pinned to the gravel ground. My scalp burned from being pulled, and I took a couple of hits to the face. During the scuffle, something slipped out of my pocket and clattered onto the concrete. It was a jade amulet. A pale green piece, carved in the shape of a little rabbit. Blade had given it to me. On my 13th birthday, Blade had just gotten out of county jail after a 3-month stretch for protecting his crew. He was visibly thinner, but he smiled when he saw me and pulled this amulet from his pocket. "Happy birthday, sis." When I asked where he got it, he just told me not to worry about it, that it was a good piece. Later, Jax told me Blade had taken it from some rich prick who tried to hustle their crew. The guy used the jade to buy his way out of a beating. Jax said it was worth a lot of money and told me to keep it safe. I had kept it close to my chest for years. I never took it off. Chloe snatched the jade off the ground. "What's this?" She turned it over, her eyes lighting up. "Mom, look. This is real jade." Her mother leaned in, and the two whispered frantically. Then Chloe looked up at me, triumphant. "May, you can't even afford college. Where did you get a piece of jade like this? This is worth thousands. You definitely stole this from somewhere. Give it back." I scrambled up from the ground, reaching for it. Chloe held it high, stepping back. "You dare try to steal it back?" Her mother shoved me away. "This is clearly stolen property. We're giving this to the police. Give it back." I lunged, grabbing for the amulet. In the chaotic struggle, there was a sharp, sickening crack. The jade flew out of Chloe's hand, smashed against the brick wall, and fell to the pavement. It shattered. It broke into several pieces. The little carved rabbit split right down the middle. I froze. Chloe froze too. Then she shrugged. "Whatever. It was stolen anyway. Let's go to your place. I want to see what else you've hidden." I knelt down, carefully picking up the broken shards of jade, cradling them in my palm. My eyes stung. But I didn't cry. My brothers told me, our family doesn't cry. I tucked the shards into my pocket, stood up, and kept walking. Chloe muttered behind me, telling her mom I was definitely a serial thief. I ignored them. After a 10-minute walk, we reached the trailer park at the edge of the city. The alleyways were narrow, littered, and overhead wires hung like chaotic spiderwebs. Chloe laughed out loud. "May, you actually live here? Is this even fit for humans?" Her mother covered her nose. "Ugh, what is that smell?" "Disgusting." Chloe's father, nursing his bruised jaw, sneered, "No wonder she's a thief. Growing up in a dump like this, how else would she survive?" Mrs. Miller pinched her nose but remained quiet. I walked up to our rusty metal gate. Chloe nudged me. "What are you waiting for? Open it. Let's see your little rat hole." Her mother added, "Yes, open it. Get your parents out here. I want to see who raised a brat like you." I pulled out my keys, my hands trembling slightly. Not out of fear, but because I could see shadows moving through the cracks of the door. There were voices. More than one person was home. I pushed the door open. And I stopped dead in my tracks. Sitting in the living room was a massive circle of men. 12 of them. Every single one was there. Jax, the oldest, still had his bleached hair, but today it was neatly combed. He wore a brand new t-shirt and actually looked presentable. Leo, the second, still had his facial scar, but he had squeezed into a buttoned-up white shirt, looking incredibly uncomfortable. Blade, skinny as ever, sat upright, smiling the moment he saw me. Hammer, the fourth, sat with his hands on his knees, posture perfectly straight. The fifth, the sixth, the seventh. All the way to Gizmo, who had actually washed his hair and slicked it back with so much gel a fly would slip off it. On the table in front of them sat a massive cake. Written on it in clumsy frosting was, "Congrats on college, sis." Jax was the first to stand up, smiling as he walked toward me. "May, you're back. We were waiting for you. It's your birthday, so we all chipped in and got a..." He stopped mid-sentence. He saw the people behind me. He saw the red marks on my face. He saw my messy hair, my dirty clothes, and the mud on my sleeves. The smile vanished from Jax's face. Leo stood up. Blade stood up. Hammer stood up. One by one, all 12 of them stood up. Behind her mother, Chloe whispered, "Who are these guys?" "May's relatives." The silence inside the trailer was heavy, suffocating, and absolute. The air was thick with the scent of cheap vanilla frosting from the massive cake. On the table, mixed with the sharp tang of the hair gel Gizmo had loaded into his hair. On the counter, a single fly buzzed against the window pane. It was the only sound in the room. Jax's gaze slowly moved. It started from May's faded sneakers, climbed up her dirt-stained jeans, past the torn sleeve of her shirt, and finally locked onto her face. A dark purple bruise was already forming on her left cheekbone. A thin trail of dried blood ran from a small scratch near her temple. Her hair, usually kept in a neat ponytail, was a tangled, wild mess, with bits of gravel and dried leaves clinging to the strands. Jax's neatly combed blonde hair didn't seem so neat anymore as his jaw clenched, the muscles working under his skin. "May," Jax said. His voice was incredibly quiet. The younger brothers knew that. When Jax spoke in that low, even tone, it was time to start looking for exits. What happened to your face? Before May could answer, Chloe's mother, recovering some of her bravado, stepped into the trailer. She sniffed the air, her face twisting in disgust as she looked at the peeling wallpaper and the mismatched chairs. What happened? Your sister is a thief, that's what happened. Mrs. Vance shrieked, pointing a sharp, acrylic-nailed finger at May. 1. She stole my daughter's $4,000 Tiffany necklace. And when we tried to bring her here to search her things, she violently assaulted my husband. Look at his jaw. It's practically swollen. Chloe's father, Harold Vance, took a step forward, trying to look imposing, despite his bruised face. That's right. You people look like a bunch of hoodlums. No wonder she turned out this way. We're calling the police. Every single one of you is going to jail for harboring a criminal. None of the 12 brothers moved a muscle to look at Harold. Their eyes remained fixed on May. Blade stepped forward. His skinny frame moved with a quiet, lethal grace. He didn't look at the Vances, he only looked at May's hands, which were clenched tightly into fists, pressed against the sides of her jeans. May, Blade said, his voice dropping an octave. What's in your pocket? May swallowed hard. She didn't want this. Today was supposed to be a celebration. For 12 years, her brothers had lived in a cycle of arrests, fights, and survival, but they had sacrificed everything to get her into college, so she could have a clean, honest life. She didn't want them back in county jail. Because of her. It's nothing, Blade, she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. Let's just go to the school office. Open your hand, sis, Leo said. The big man with the scar across his face took a single step forward, and the entire trailer seemed to shudder under his weight. Slowly, May reached into her pocket. Her fingers brushed against the sharp, jagged edges of the broken stone. She pulled her hand out and opened her palm. Resting in her hand were 4 pale green shards. The little carved rabbit, which Blade had given her for her 13th birthday, was split completely down the middle. One of its ears was crushed into tiny, useless green dust. Blade stared at the broken pieces. The green of the jade reflected in his dark eyes. For a second, his expression didn't change. Then, a slow, terrifying smile spread across his face, the kind of smile he wore right before he took down 5 guys in an alleyway. Who did it? Blade asked. He didn't raise his voice, but the temperature in the room felt like it had dropped to freezing. I did. Chloe's mother snapped, crossing her arms. She was trying to hide it. It's clearly stolen anyway. A girl from this dump having real jade? Please. It's probably a cheap piece of glass, and she's trying to scam us. It broke because she was resisting us. If you want to blame someone, blame her. Mrs. Miller, the academic advisor, was sweating profusely. She looked at Jax. Then at Leo, then at the 10 other men standing in the small living room. She was a university administrator. She spent her days dealing with syllabus disputes and budget meetings. She had never seen men like this up close, men whose eyes held the cold, hard stare of people who lived on the edge of the law. Perhaps we should all calm down, Mrs. Miller stammered, stepping back toward the door. We can discuss this back on campus. May, if you just come with us. The door is locked, Leo said flatly. Mrs. Miller spun around. Leo was already standing in front of the exit. He hadn't just closed the door, he had slid the heavy iron deadbolt into place. He stood there like a stone wall, his arms crossed over his massive chest. Let us out. Chloe screamed, her smug smirk finally slipping. You can't keep us here. This is kidnapping. My boyfriend is Ethan Sterling. Do you know who the Sterlings are? They own half the real estate in this city. If you touch us, they will destroy you. Gizmo, who had been sitting quietly in the corner with his laptop on his knees, let out a loud, theatrical sigh. He tapped a few keys on his keyboard and spun the laptop around so everyone could see the screen. Ethan Sterling, huh? Gizmo said, chewing on a toothpick. Funny name. I did a quick search on the Sterling family tree. Arthur Sterling has 2 sons, both of whom are currently studying in London. He doesn't have a son named Ethan. But I did find an Ethan Vance, who happens to be your cousin, Chloe. Chloe's face went instantly pale. What? No, that's not. And as for the Mercedes he drives, Gizmo continued, his fingers flying across the keys as he brought up a rental agreement on the screen. It's registered to Hertz Rental at the airport. It's 3 days overdue, and the credit card used to lease it just got declined this morning. In fact, Ethan is Currently hiding out in a motel on 5th Street because he owes 12 grand to a local bookie. You hacked his accounts. Chloe shrieked. I didn't have to hack anything, Gizmo laughed, leaning back. The idiot uses his birth date as his password for everything, and he posted his rental contract on his public Instagram story to flex. Now, let's talk about this $4,000 Tiffany necklace. Gizmo clicked a video file, and the cheap TV mounted on the trailer wall suddenly flickered to life. On the screen was a high-definition recording of the female dormitory hallway. The timestamp showed it was from 8:15 a.m. that morning. The video showed Chloe walking down the hallway. She looked around to make sure no one was watching, then slipped a silver necklace into the side pocket of May's laundry basket, which was sitting outside May's room. But the video didn't end there. 2 minutes later, Chloe came back out of her room, looking panicked. She reached into her own purse, pulled out the exact same necklace, and dropped it into her pocket. The camera caught the entire thing. Wait, let me zoom in, Gizmo said, tapping the spacebar. Ah, there we go. Look at the clasp. Real Tiffany necklaces have a distinct serial number stamped on the gold tag. This one? It has a tiny sticker that says, Made in China. I did a quick check of Chloe's online shopping history through her public school portal. She bought a $45 replica from an online wholesaler last Tuesday. The room fell into a dead, horrifying silence. Mrs. Miller turned slowly to look at Chloe. Chloe, is this true? You framed May? No. It's a fake video. They edited it. Chloe screamed, her voice cracking with panic. Mom, tell them. They're lying. Mrs. Vance looked at the screen, then at her daughter, her face shifting through shades of red and white. Chloe, you told me she stole it. You said she was a filthy thief. She is. Chloe cried, pointing at May. Look at her. She's poor. Why does she get to go to the same college as me? Why does she get the top grades while everyone looks at me like I'm stupid? She doesn't belong there. She belongs in the gutter. Jax didn't look at Chloe. He walked over to the table, picked up a clean plate, and scooped a massive slice of the chocolate cake onto it. He handed it to May, along with a fork. Eat, sis, Jax said gently. You've had a long day. Let your brothers handle the garbage. May looked at the cake, then at Jax. Jax, please don't do anything that will get you locked up. I just got you all back. Jax offered her a rare, genuine smile. Don't worry. We promised we'd keep our hands clean for your college years. We aren't going to break our word. He turned back to the Vances, the smile instantly vanishing, replaced by a cold, calculating mask. But, Jax added, that doesn't mean we can't let the system do its job. Blade walked up to Mrs. Vance. He was thin, but he stood close enough that she could smell the cheap tobacco on his clothes. He held out his hand, palm up, containing the broken shards of the jade rabbit. Do you know what this is? Blade asked. Mrs. Vance swallowed hard, her previous arrogance completely gone. I told you we can pay for it. $1,000? 2,000? This jade, Blade said, his voice quiet and steady, belonged to a man who tried to hustle our crew 10 years ago. He thought he could run. I chased him through 3 states. When I finally caught him, he gave me this raw stone to save his own legs. I took 2 knife wounds to my ribs during that chase. I still have the scars. They itch when it rains. Mrs. Vance shrank back, her breath hitching. I took that raw stone to an old master on 4th Street, Blade continued. He spent 3 weeks carving it into a rabbit because May was born in the year of the rabbit. It was the only birthday present she got that year. To her, it's priceless. To me, it's worth more than your entire life. We'll pay. Harold Vance stammered, stepping in front of his wife. Name your price. We have money. I'm the regional director of Sterling Enterprises. I make 6 figures. Sterling Enterprises? Leo repeated from the doorway. He pulled a cheap flip phone from his pocket. That's convenient. You know my company? Harold asked, a desperate spark of hope lighting up his eyes. If you let us go, I can make sure your neighborhood gets favorable treatment from our development projects. We're buying up this land. Anyway. Leo didn't answer. He dialed a number and put it on speaker. The phone rang twice before a deep, authoritative voice answered. Leo. I told you, my offer for the trailer park land is final. $5 million for The entire plot, and I'll guarantee relocation assistance for your people. Have you decided? Harold's eyes went wide. He recognized that voice. It was Arthur Sterling, the billionaire owner of Sterling Enterprises, the man who held Harold's entire career in his hands. Sterling, Leo said, his voice flat. We were considering your offer. But right now, your regional director, Harold Vance, is standing in my living room. He and his family just broke into our place, assaulted our little sister, and smashed a priceless family heirloom. A sharp intake of breath came over the phone. What? Harold Vance is there? He is, Leo said. And he's currently threatening to use your company's name to have us arrested and sweep our neighborhood. He also says he's going to make sure we get favorable treatment if we let him go. Put him on, Arthur Sterling ordered. His voice was laced with pure, unadulterated fury. Leo handed the phone to Harold, whose hands were shaking so badly he almost dropped it. Mr. Sterling. Harold whispered, his voice cracking. Vance, you absolute, brainless idiot. Arthur roared through the speaker, his voice so loud it echoed in the small trailer. Do you have any idea who you are dealing with? Leo and his brothers represent the entire local coalition. I have been trying to negotiate this land acquisition for 18 months. If they back out because of your sheer stupidity, our entire commercial plaza project is dead. Mr. Sterling, please. It was a misunderstanding. Harold begged, tears of terror finally springing to his eyes. My daughter's necklace. I don't care about your daughter or her cheap necklace. Arthur screamed. You are fired. Effective immediately. I will have security clear out your office by noon, and I am instructing our legal team to review every single expense report you filed in the last 5 years. If you've stolen a single dime from my company, I will personally ensure you spend the next 10 years in federal prison. No, please, Mr. Sterling. And you better pray to whatever God you believe in that Leo and his family don't sue you, Arthur added coldly. Because if they do, and it gets into the press, I will make sure you never find a job cleaning toilets in this state again. Give the phone back to Leo. Harold fell to his knees, his face pale as paper. The phone slipped from his hand and clattered onto the linoleum floor. Leo picked it up. Yeah, Sterling. Leo, Arthur said, his tone instantly shifting to one of polite, desperate negotiation. I am deeply sorry for this. I had no idea Vance was capable of such behavior. Please, let's resolve this. I am on my way to the site right now to sign the final papers myself. I will bring my personal legal team. We can include a separate settlement for your sister's damages, whatever she wants. Just, please don't let this ruin our deal. Leo looked at Jax, who gave a brief, subtle nod. We'll be waiting, Leo said, and hung up. 10 minutes later, the sound of a heavy, high-end engine echoed through the narrow alleyways of the trailer park. A sleek, jet-black Maybach pulled up outside the rusty metal gate. The neighborhood children, who usually played with discarded tires and plastic bottles, stopped and stared at the luxury vehicle as it parked in the dirt. 2 bodyguards in tailored suits stepped out first, opening the rear doors. Arthur Sterling stepped out. He was a tall, imposing man in his late 50s, wearing a bespoke gray suit that cost more than the entire trailer May lived in. But it was the person who stepped out after him that made May's heart stop. It was a woman. She was draped in an elegant cream-colored cashmere coat, her hair styled in a perfect, expensive blowout. Large designer sunglasses covered her eyes, but even before she took them off, May recognized the shape of her jaw, the curve of her lips, and the cold, dismissive posture she held. It was Eleanor, her biological mother. Eleanor looked around the dirty alleyway, her nose wrinkling in disgust. Arthur, do we really have to walk into this filthy place? Can't your security just bring them out? Shut up, Eleanor, Arthur snapped, his face tight with stress. This deal is worth $80 million in projected revenue. If I have to walk through mud to sign it, I will. Inside the trailer, May stood up. The piece of chocolate cake remained untouched on her plate. Jax placed a hand on her shoulder. His grip was warm, solid, and reassuring. Don't worry, sis. We're here. The rusty gate creaked open, and heavy footsteps approached the trailer door. Leo unlocked the deadbolt and threw the door wide open. Arthur Sterling stepped inside, immediately taking off his hat. Leo. Jax. Thank you for seeing me on such short notice. He stopped as his eyes fell on Harold Vance, who was still kneeling on the floor, weeping silently. Beside him, Mrs. Vance and Chloe were huddled together, looking terrified. Get up, Vance, Arthur said coldly. You're embarrassing yourself. Then, Eleanor stepped into the trailer. She adjusted her coat, her eyes sweeping the room with a look of utter superiority. But as her gaze drifted past the 12 large, imposing men, it finally settled on the young girl standing in the center of the room. Eleanor froze. Her sunglasses slipped from her fingers, clattering onto the floor. May, she whispered, her voice barely audible. The room fell silent once more. Arthur turned to his wife, frowning. Eleanor? You know this girl? Jack stepped forward, his tall frame completely blocking Eleanor's view of May. He looked down at the elegant woman, his eyes filled with a lifetime of stored-up hatred. Know her? Jax laughed, a harsh, grating sound. Of course she knows her. 12 years ago, this elegant lady of yours left a 6-year-old girl under a highway overpass in the freezing rain. She gave her $20 and told her to wait there. She never came back because she was too busy trying to marry into your wealthy estate. Arthur's eyes went wide. He looked at Eleanor, whose face had gone completely white. Is this true? Arthur demanded, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Eleanor, you told me your daughter died in an accident before we met. She's lying. They're all lying. Eleanor stammered, stepping back, her hand flying to her throat. Arthur, don't believe them. They're just street thugs trying to blackmail us. They found out about my past and we didn't find out anything, Gizmo said, turning his laptop screen toward Arthur. We've had your DNA profile on file since we took May in. We just didn't want to ruin our sister's life by letting her know her mother was a monster. But since you're here. Gizmo clicked a file, displaying a birth certificate and a series of old photos of May as a toddler, alongside a younger, less refined Eleanor. You left her, Jack said, his voice cutting through the room like a knife. We found her. We raised her. We fed her. We made sure she went to school. And today, on her first day of college, your employee's family tried to ruin her life because they thought she was trash who didn't belong. Eleanor looked at May, her eyes wild with a mixture of fear, shame, and desperation. She realized that if Arthur divorced her, she would lose everything, the mansion, the sports cars, the country club memberships. She had sacrificed her own child for this wealth, and now it was all crumbling. She rushed forward, pushing past Jax, and tried to grab May's hands. May. My sweet girl. Eleanor cried, her voice dripping with fake, desperate tears. I'm so sorry. I didn't want to leave you. I was desperate, I had no money, I thought someone would find you and give you a better life than I ever could. Please, tell them. Tell Arthur that we're family. We can be a family. Again. May looked at her biological mother. She looked at the expensive cashmere coat, the manicured nails, and the desperate, pathetic look in Eleanor's eyes. Then, May looked at her 12 brothers. She looked at Jax, who had skipped meals so she could have milk. She looked at Leo, who had taken a pipe to the shoulder to protect her from a rival gang when she was 10. She looked at Blade, who had bled for the jade rabbit that now lay shattered on the table. She looked at Gizmo, who had stayed up all night helping her study for her college entrance exams, even though he could barely read himself. You're not my mother, May said. Her voice was calm, steady, and devoid of any anger. My mother didn't leave me under a bridge. My family is right here. She reached into her pocket, pulled out the shattered pieces of the jade rabbit, and placed them in Eleanor's hand. This was the only thing of value I had, May said. Your people broke it. You can keep the pieces. They're just like you, broken, empty, and worthless. Eleanor stared at the green shards in her hand, her face blank with shock. Arthur Sterling looked at his wife, his expression hardening into pure disgust. He turned to his head bodyguard. Take her back to the car, Arthur ordered. And call my divorce lawyer. Tell him I want the paperwork drafted by tonight. She leaves with nothing. Not a single cent. Arthur, no. Please. Eleanor shrieked as the 2 massive bodyguards grabbed her arms and began dragging her out of the trailer. May. Help me. I'm your mother. You can't do this to me. Her screams faded as the heavy trailer door was shut, leaving only the quiet hum of the room. Arthur Sterling took a deep breath, smoothing his tie. He turned to Jax and Leo. I apologize for the family drama, Arthur said, his voice professional once more. Now, let's talk about the land acquisition. And more importantly, let's talk about May's compensation. Jax crossed his arms. We're listening. First, Arthur said, pointing at Harold Vance, who was still trembling on the floor. The Vance family will pay for the destruction of your sister's heirloom. I will personally value that jade at $50,000, which will be deducted from Vance's final severance package and transferred to May's account. Immediately. Harold gasped, but he didn't dare speak. Second, Arthur continued, turning to Mrs. Miller, who was shaking in the corner. Mrs. Miller, I believe your university has a strict policy regarding the false accusation and harassment of students. I expect Chloe Vance to be expelled by tomorrow morning. If not, my foundation will withdraw its $10 million endowment to the university's business school. Mrs. Miller nodded frantically. Yes. Absolutely, Mr. Sterling. It will be handled immediately. Chloe Vance will be expelled, and May will receive a full academic scholarship, housing allowance, and a formal apology from the dean's office. Good, Arthur said. He then turned to Leo. As for the trailer park land, I am raising my offer to $7 million. In addition, my company will build a brand new, modern apartment complex down the street, and every single resident of this park will receive a free, rent-stabilized 3-bedroom unit for life. Leo looked at Jax. Jax looked at May. May smiled and nodded. We have a deal, Sterling, Jax said, extending his hand. They shook on it. The Vances, Mrs. Miller, and Arthur Sterling finally left the trailer. The quiet alleyway outside was filled with the sound of luxury cars driving away, leaving the neighborhood in peace once more. Inside the trailer, the 12 brothers stood around the table. Gizmo picked up a knife and handed it to May. Well, sis, the garbage is gone. Can we finally eat the cake? May laughed, the tension finally leaving her body. She wiped a stray tear from her cheek, not of sadness, but of relief. Yes, May said, taking the knife. Let's eat. She cut the first slice and handed it to Jax. Happy birthday, May, Jax said, taking the plate. Thanks, big brother, May smiled, looking around the room at her 12 gangster brothers. They had never taught her grand philosophies, and they had never lived by the rules of polite society. But they had given her something far more valuable, a home, an unbreakable spirit, and a family that would tear down the world before they let anyone hurt her. And as she took a bite of the sweet vanilla cake, May knew that no matter where her college journey took her, she would never walk alone.